Hi everybody, welcome back. It's January 19th, 2023, and once again we're going back to the moon using the Worldwide Telescope. And actually we're looking at some pictures that we've seen before, but I've added a bunch of new ones, and I've cleaned it up quite a bit. I think you'll find this to be much better than the last video, and I think the last one was pretty good. I have to say, this is a very sad day today. I was just informed that David Crosby died. David Crosby was a true rock and roll Hall of Famer. This is a guy who had the most incredible skills in songwriting and the clearest voice of anybody you've ever heard in your life. People have asked me quite a bit when we look at these pictures, what are we looking at? So what we're looking at here is satellite pictures taken of the moon. And we're looking at this particular crater. It's a slightly oblique angle. And we'll be looking at buildings, lots of buildings. And one of the things that we see, or one of the telltale signs of a building, is right angles. And this whole entire area is nothing but right angles. Although you would never know by looking at this picture. I mean, this picture just looks like oatmeal. It doesn't look like anything could ever possibly come out of it. Now this picture right here, to me, looks like any city on earth. It could be just about anywhere. And I've given us quite a bit of time on these pictures. I'm not going to go over these pictures too quickly because it takes some time. You know, my purpose here, one of my purposes in these pictures is to show you the 3D of this city, of this area. You know, if you just glaze your eyes over, it's hard to see anything. But if you look closely, and you have to look into the picture, and once you look into the picture, you'll begin to see this 3D configuration. It's not just black and white 2D. Well, it is, but I'm trying to be able to make it so you can actually see what we're talking about here. One of the interesting things that I have found that when I'm looking at these pictures is that my eyes kind of go in and out. Like I can look at, by the way, look right in the dead center here. You can see like a courtyard there, right in the middle. And if you look into that picture, you begin to see what is high, what is low, and what is what, right? But what I was going to say is I have found that when I look at these pictures, my eyes kind of go in and out. Like I can see the 3D at one point, and then all of a sudden I don't see it. And then I have to keep looking at it, and it comes back in for me. So I'm leaving us a lot of time on all of these different pictures for us to take a look, for you to take a look. And it's I hope it's not too slow for you, but I think you'll have great rewards if you do take the time to look into these pictures and try to perceive what I'm talking about with this 2D, 3D thing. One of the things I've found in looking at these pictures, there's a whole lot of skyscraper type buildings, a lot of them. And very many of them, most of them really, are cylindrical with their little openings at the top. Sometimes the little openings in the middle, but usually it's at the top, whether it's an opening or a black stripe. I think the black stripe is windows, and I think the openings could be windows, or maybe that's where the parking garage is. You know, I say that jokingly, but these people got to get around somehow or another. And another interesting feature of these pictures is the fact that the white buildings in these pictures are the most interesting ones, I think. Without a doubt, they have some actual different design features, but at the same time, they're kind of the hard ones to see as well. And a lot of times when we're looking at these pictures, we see what appear to be pyramids. And I don't think that's true. There might be some pyramid shapes there, but a lot of the time I think it's a V shape, like an upside down V, and there's construction in the middle of it. And when you first look at it, it looks like a pyramid, but it isn't really. And some of these buildings are quite huge. I mean, you know, that's another thing. The diversity in the buildings to me is really amazing, because there's the vast majority are very, very small, and then there's also very, very large. Now looking over on the far left-hand side of the screen here, coming in from the 9 o'clock position, there's a white area, and well, I'm not really sure how to describe it, but there's some. It looks like there's a row of spheres there. Can you see that? It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think they're spheres. Yeah, they could be square buildings, but the resolution isn't good enough, so it comes across as spheres. But I don't know. It could go either way. And right in the middle of the screen here is what looks like kind of like a great big building, a big square building. And you can see behind it, on the sides of it, and both sides of it. And these so-called big buildings that we see rarely are actual individual big buildings. Frequently, they are groupings of buildings. And they group them in really, really tightly, and so tightly they look like an individual building. But they're not. They're groupings. So, yeah, I was listening to a little bit about Ingo Swann. Have you ever heard Ingo Swann's name? Yeah, he's a remote viewer. He died back in, I think, 2013. And Ingo was employed by the United States government to remote view, originally to remote view the backside of the moon. And boy, it's really wild. He did so. And at one point he said he was looking, I don't know if he was supposedly like on the outside of a dome, or whether he's just looking through a wall. I don't really know how that works for sure. But he said he saw a lot of activity going on inside there. And then he noticed that one of the, I'll call them people, noticed him, turned around and was looking at him. And he was saying, he can see me. And then the whole group of people inside that building all turned around and were looking at him and pointing. And he was told to immediately withdraw at that point. That's really freaky. Right in the middle of the picture here is a arrow pointing at a very large square structure that appears to have a window that goes all the way around the top of it. And right next to that is another one of these groupings of, we've seen this before. We just pointed one out. They have these low flat areas with some kind of structures spaced out on there. I don't know what it is. To me, they look kind of cylindrical. I don't know. Same thing is true if you look over here on the left-hand side. You'll see 3 stripes. 1, 2, 3 stripes. Yep. And above that, again, is another flat area with some more of these cylindrical shaped, I think they look like cylindrical shaped platforms. And so what's sitting on top of those platforms? To me, they look circular. So are those flying saucers sitting on those platforms? Is that the airport? I don't know. Yes, this is a seriously complicated place here. It's just beyond me how they could put this together like this. Another thing that Ingo said that kind of doesn't jive with what I've been seeing, but he said that the aliens have been mining the moon. And I don't know. I guess that's possible. From what I've seen, the pictures that I've seen, the whole damn moon is covered with buildings. It just doesn't leave room for mining. I don't know. And then you take into consideration, by the way, here we go. These three arrows are pointing at groups of very tall buildings. Now, these are skyscraper type buildings, and this isn't probably the very best picture for that, but they're usually cylindrical, I think, and they build them in these very tight rows. It almost looks like a wall. And the other arrow is pointing at another cylindrical building with a wide window on the top of that one. That one's a little bit unusual. And the thing about looking at these pictures is that they really, you know, you don't have to step back very far, and everything, you just can't tell what you're looking at. It's just such a bunch of blobs of white and darkness, really. But the thing is, it's a pattern. It's all part of a pattern. We've seen the pattern at the beginning of this video. It's such an unusual construction, the way they do it. You know, they have this great big pattern that you can't see anything unless you get really, really close. And when you go back, all you see is this unusual pattern that, I don't know, it just doesn't seem to make any sense. This is such an unusual place. And I'm still learning. You know, I've got a long ways to go to understand everything that we're looking at here. I understand buildings. I see these big square buildings everywhere. I see these cylindrical buildings everywhere. I get that. But the overall construction, the way they put it together is, well, I was just going to say it's strange, but I guess I could just say it's alien. You know, they don't talk to us about how it should look, that's for sure. The other thing is all of this is just so unlikely, right? It's just so unlikely and so unbelievable. Again, this is just one very small spot on the whole entire moon. One small spot in this particular crater. It just doesn't seem like this could even be possible. It reminds me of Arthur Schopenhauer. Did I say it right? Schopenhauer? Anyway, Schopenhauer. And he was I think a 16th century, what do you call him? Smart guy. Anyway, you know, he's talking about truth. And he says all truth passes through three stages. The first is that it's ridiculed. The second stage is it's violently opposed. And the third stage is it's accepted as being self-evident. Well, this is self-evident to me. How about you? Is this self-evident to you? So I guess it's there, right? I mean, it must be there. I told somebody today that I second guess myself so much. I wonder how much time I waste doing that. Here between these very large buildings, you can see kind of a boulevard, you know. I just threw that in there so you could have a little perception on this particular area. But yeah, I second guess myself all the time because, you know, I'm putting myself out there, right? If I walk up to somebody and say, hey, I'm telling you, man, there's buildings all over the moon, people will laugh me out of the room, right? That's something I don't do, by the way. I've learned to keep it pretty quiet. And I try to let the pictures do the talking, but you know, the interesting thing about that is I like to let the pictures do the talking, but there are so many people that I don't know if they're just not interested. I mean, I find it hard to believe that they're not interested, right? I mean, if there was an announcement that was going to come out on the news tonight and they're going to tell us about life somewhere in the solar system, man, you know everybody'd be home glued to their TV sets about it, right? But if old Tom has some pictures to show you of the moon, you know, I guess there's no credibility there. I mean, they don't understand how many thousands and thousands, really many thousands of hours I've got in on looking at pictures like this. Frankly, I kind of consider myself an expert. I mean, I don't know anybody else that's looked at this many pictures for as long as I have. And you know, I have a full-time job, and I spend at least 30 hours a week over and above my job looking at these pictures and making these videos and going over everything. You know, if you do the math in the last 5 or 6 years, that's a lot of hours, a whole lot of hours. So I really feel like I know what I'm talking about. But because I don't have a PhD and I'm not from NASA, I'm just some other dude, right? And I just can't understand why people won't even look at the pictures. I mean, I had a boss that absolutely, you know, was adamant about not looking, you know, because there's nothing there. I have a very good friend who just died. He's a doctor, a scientist, right? And science says that this is not there, that this is impossible, you know, so don't waste your time looking. Even a really good lifelong friend refused to look at the pictures. Isn't that unbelievable? I remember, what's his name? Another YouTuber, one of my favorite ones, his name slips my mind, Techno Thanks. Same thing. He said he lost a lot of friends over this stuff. Well, now here's a picture to me. It looks like a sign that has the number 38 on it. Isn't that what that looks like? It looks, I know it's pretty fuzzy and everything, but it doesn't look like a building, and it kind of looks like it's suspended there. It looks like a great big sign. Do you think they use the same numbers we do? I doubt it. But maybe. You never know. They got to have symbols. Got to have some symbols, right? Maybe that's where we got this. Maybe we got all our symbols from these guys. Another thing that Ingo Swann said that I found to be disturbing was that, in his opinion, these people on the moon are not our friends. They're not our friends. Now, you know, remote viewers, the good ones, I think, generally run about 80% correct. I'm hoping that the 20% of being incorrect has to do with whether or not these people are friendly. I really would prefer not to think that these people that are only a couple 100,000 miles away from us are friendly and not, not negative. So, you know, who knows if we'll ever find out. I don't think we will in our lifetime, and I don't think we ever will. If you ask me, the politicians of the world, the space agencies of the world are stalling. They're never going to come out and tell us. I don't know why, and I don't know what they would be stalling for. But I think they're just stalling, and I don't think we're ever going to get to know the truth. And I got to say, I mean, I admit I would be really quite happy if somebody came out and said, okay, look, we've got all this civilization out there. It would be kind of nice to be backed up, to have somebody of authority come out and say that, yeah, this is all here. I know it is. In my heart of hearts, I know it is. I've second-guessed myself a trillion times. I've gone over this stuff over and over. It's here. It's definitely here. Now, this is another classic picture of a city, all right? That's another city that could be anywhere. Is that Sacramento right in front of us there? Yeah, I don't know. I think if these pictures were these beautiful, crystal clear, glossy, amazing pictures that they have, it would just be so incredible to see all of this 3D stuff going on here. To be able to see that, just be really fascinating. I'll say again, I really wish people would get onto this worldwide telescope. I'm curious to ask you, the viewers of this, have any of you ever tried to get on the worldwide telescope? Have you ever tried it out? I mean, I've given little, showed you how to use it. Super simple. Showed you where to get it. Given you the links. I'll have links in the description down below. Have you ever tried it? I mean, you should try it. It's very fascinating. But I want to emphasize that if you do use it and you go to the moon, just go straight to the North or the South Pole. The stuff on the light areas around the rest are too messed up. But this stuff on the poles is really clear. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great day.